Hey there, it is Tomster on behalf of Indie Structural Productions once again, and we're going to start a new build. Now this is going to be a bit different where, I'm used to making videos on guitar builds on this channel where I kind of talk you through the process and I kind of, in a way, teach how to go about doing certain processes and whatnot, but with this build, I'm just going to build it. And of course I'm going to film me doing it and you're going to be able to follow along, but it's much less going to be tutorial based and much more of me just doing things and talking as I go. If something comes up, then I'll talk about it. But it should be very interesting for me as well to just kind of go at it without having to think of how to teach you how to go through each step. Because I have the production builds. They're gonna be nicely edited videos on going really in depth. There's a 7-string that's gonna be more or less some of the stuff that I'm used to doing. But this is just, you get to follow along sort of, not really real time, but you get to follow along as I build this. So these videos are going to be coming out sporadically. I'm gonna put them out as I work on this. So you're kind of following along as I go, which should be a lot of fun. So it is currently the something of November. Let's have a look. It is now the 22nd of November, and when this video comes out, you'll see that you're pretty much not following too far behind on what I'm doing. Anywho, so the build. One of the first guitars that I built was the Celeste, which was a problematic build from start to finish. There were so many things about it that went wrong, but fortunately, one of those things that I always tell other people, other up-and-coming luthiers, that don't be afraid to make mistakes. That is how you learn. So as much as that guitar was a failure, I learned what not to do and how to do things better. But I always liked the idea and the concept and all the parts and what Celeste was going to be. Now Celeste was originally this semi-hollow Telecaster shape with a burl mahogany top veneer and an ash body, single piece ash body, maple neck, ebony fretboard, and and then a bunch of, electronics that were all kinds of electricity and whatnot. Anywho, I'm gonna go somewhere along those lines with this build. Now, one of the key components of this build is actually the top. Now, this piece of walnut that I jointed back in 2013. Now, I've been holding on to this for 7 years, and I've been waiting for the right opportunity to actually build this guitar out of this piece of wood. And now is that time. This build is going to consist of this lovely, really dry, 7-year-old jointed walnut top. It is going to have an ash body, but instead of doing a 1-piece ash body, I'm gonna do a 2-piece out of this that I have, this leftover ash that I've had in storage for a little while now. So 2-piece ash body. Then there's a 1-piece Wenge neck. Now I've had this Wenge lying around since 2016 is when I got it. I think, if I remember correctly, Sam at Crimson was cutting up some Wenge that he had, and we did a sort of trade-off. I gave him some wood, and he gave me this piece of Wenge. So that's been waiting around for God knows how long, and I've always wanted to pair that piece of Wenge up with this fretboard that I made out of curly birch, or Carillion birch, or one of the many different names that this has in English, but basically a Finnish, very highly figured piece of birch. And this is gonna be the fretboard for it. Now, it might not be as strong and as hard and as dense as maple is, but it is hard enough for this fretboard. And then I'm gonna finish that off with some binding out of this black walnut that I have, which I believe is left over from when I cut this up to this size. So a lot of old woods that I've had in storage waiting around forever for me to actually get started with this build in particular. So this is gonna be the Celeste 2.0, and I've been waiting to build this guitar for like 6 years now. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But before we can even get started, let's take a little flashback and exercise some demons, so to speak. So that original Celeste guitar it filled me with a lot of grief. It was something that I always just had around, and I didn't want to look at it any longer. So I decided to kind of, in a sort of cathartic sense, get rid of it. So let's burn the old, and from the ashes of the old, something new will be born. And without further ado, here we go, and I'll see you in the next video.